infectious diseases in humans, and nearly three-quarters of emerging diseases originate in animals. As the world marks World Zoonosis Day, we are joined by Dr. Victor Yammer, the CEO of the Global One Health Advocacy Alliance, to discuss how stronger collaboration between human, animal and environmental health can help prevent future outbreaks. Now, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
All right, perhaps to start us off, what are zoonotic diseases and why should Kenyans be concerned about them?
Zoonotic diseases are diseases that actually affect animals and man. They actually cross over. A good example is rabies, and another common example is anthrax. And Kenyans should be concerned about them because essentially they are critical and they are common diseases that we see. And as you rightfully pointed out, 60% of diseases are actually coming from animals, and 75% of emerging diseases are also coming from animals. So it is critical and important that we ensure that we manage these diseases so that our health and trading and whatever else that we do, livelihoods, are not impacted on negatively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Perhaps why do so many infectious diseases in humans originate in animals?
I think part of it is the fact that we are animals. If you remember your high school or primary school, you are told there are plants and animals. So we are animals, that's number one. But two, we all occupy the same space. Remember that animals and humans occupy an environment, and in that environment we are interacting. So whatever is coming from animals is found in the environment, and whatever is in the environment then affects humans. And that's part of the reason why then we have an approach called the One Health approach that then tries to look at health, not from silos where animal health looks at one side, human health looks at the other one, and the environmental side looks at it, but it's coming together. And that's part of what World Zoonosis Day was all about, bringing the sectors together so that then we work collaboratively in managing diseases and other issues that come from that the three sectors share together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned anthrax, rabies. These are well-known examples. Yeah. In 2020, there was COVID-19, yeah. There is Ebola. Yeah. Perhaps are there other zoonotic diseases that pose a risk in Kenya?
There are many, at least for the time being. COVID never had any issues. We got a few, but we managed it. The world managed that pandemic. Ebola, as we continue tracking and doing surveillance, so far we've not had an outbreak. But the others, anthrax is a good example, but beyond anthrax we have things like Rift Valley fever, we have diseases like salmonellosis that comes from chickens. And so there's a whole multitude of diseases that we need to be looking at. And the important thing is then how do we manage them so that they do not become a threat to our livelihoods, to our health, and to the trade that we do across certain issues.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Perhaps what is the One Health approach and why is it gaining global attention?
One Health essentially is an approach that brings together the various sectors, animal health, human health, and environment. And in animal health, we are not just talking about domestic animals. We're also looking at wildlife because there are diseases that come from wildlife into farm animals and ultimately ends up in human population. We're also looking at aspects that are coming from fisheries because fish is still part of the animals. So it's holistically looking at that, and then how do then disease-causing organisms impact. And an easy example that I usually give is if you have a chicken house and the chicken gets a disease, that disease then remains in the manure in the chicken house. That manure, in most likely situations in this country, will go on to crops. Somebody will go and put it as manure for farming. That means you've spread the contaminant or the disease-causing organism onto crops. That crop and the animal will ultimately end up as products that we eat or consume. When you're consuming them, then we'll most likely get that infection. And that is one reason why One Health has become, it's an approach that tries to bring everybody together so that we address issues that are affecting us together. That then means that we're able to use resources more efficiently instead of trying to address, and then we are able to focus and synergistically work so that we are addressing health issues not from a standalone point, but you're saying what you're seeing in human health. For instance, when people go and consume meat that has not been inspected and end up with an anthrax outbreak, the challenge is in animals. And the best way to control it is control it at the animal level. It's cheaper, it's more effective than trying to treat a person who already has an outbreak of anthrax or is already infected. And that's part of the reason why the world has come together, and over the last couple of years, there's been a push to then bring everybody together to work out around a One Health approach that then looks at everything from that prism. Yeah.
Perhaps how prepared is Kenya to detect and respond to emerging zoonotic diseases?
I think we must commend the Ministry of Health and its various other partners from the Directorate of Veterinary Services and Environment, Health, and even Agriculture and Fisheries, because I think there's been a concerted effort to bring us together. I know that most of us might not know we have a zoonotic disease unit that has been working around these diseases for the last couple of years and addressing issues of emerging and emerging diseases, especially zoonotic ones. The country a few years back then decided to come together and develop something called the Kenya National Public Health Institute that is going to be focusing around that One Health approach. In terms of preparedness, there are various levels of preparedness. One critical one is diseases we must do surveillance. And surveillance is about going out there and finding where the disease is. If you look at the case of Ebola, we are already doing surveillance because as you come into the country, we ask you a few questions. We also try to ensure that we assess your temperature to ensure that you're not having a fever, which might be indicative of an outbreak. And then we monitor you beyond. If you've been part of the people who've come in recently, we give you a questionnaire and keep in touch with you for 2 to 3 weeks after you leave the airport. And that is part of what we need to do. I think we need to enhance it because it might not be at the level it needs to be. At various levels, we might need to do more surveillance, more active surveillance at that matter. The second level is we've also been able to engage people, the general public, in terms of understanding where disease comes from. If you look at a lot of these zoonotic diseases, it's either by contact or it's because poor hygiene and sanitation situations. So part of the things that we are then doing is to raise awareness on how to do hygiene and sanitation, do better biosecurity at the farm level, and that way then we are getting that preparedness to the level we need to do. Maybe just to end up, in terms of Ebola, we have even had to go down and train the health workers, both, especially those who are in counties where there are counties that are risk, especially the border counties, so that they learn what they need to do when you see an Ebola, suspect, what do you do, how do you manage it? And then they have the information which they can relate to the general public, even as they do their day-to-day, especially the public health officers that interact with the general community. So there's various levels of what has been done, and I think we are not there, but we are already having a process that is getting us there. Yeah.
As we come to a close, perhaps, we mark the World Zoonosis Day, and perhaps what message would you like to leave Kenyans on protecting themselves and preventing future outbreaks?
Yeah, the World Zoonosis Day was marked last week on 6th of July, and the theme for the year was One World, One Health, Prevent Zoonosis. And preventing zoonosis or zoonotic diseases is about my hygiene and sanitation. How do I handle myself? How do I carry myself? How do I engage with the products, meat, milk that come out of production systems? How do I store them so that they're not having cross-contamination post-cooking? And then, of course, at the farming level, how do farmers do hygiene and sanitation? But very important is also how do they vaccinate against some of these diseases, because vaccination at the farming level then prevents the disease getting to humans. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
That was Dr. Victor Yamo, the CEO of the Global One Health Advocacy Alliance. We were discussing perhaps the stronger collaboration between human, animal and environmental health that can help prevent future outbreaks. We now move on to other news. The government has intensified the registration of national identity cards and voter enlistment in Homa Bay, County as part of efforts to increase the number of eligible voters ahead of the 2027 general election. The campaign was launched in Thiwa constituency, where leaders met to map out strategies aimed at registering all eligible residents aged 18 years and above for national identity cards and subsequent voter registration. And now we will be moving on to business news. We will bring you that report later on. A technical center under construction at the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute is on course for completion next year. The Techno Center will host research laboratories, pilot manufacturing plants, testing facilities and incubation spaces, helping support commercialization of local innovation investment. Trade and Industry Cabinet Secretary Lee Kinyanjui says the project cost has risen to about 8.56 billion shillings from an initial 5.9 billion shillings due to delays and funding challenges.
We have since jump-started, and we are going to see where we are now, but I'm told by early next year we should be able to finish the construction. So there was provision in last year's budget, and even this year we also have a provision to ensure that we complete it, but we would want that to be the center for now this whole industrial training and capacity building for Kenya to feed to the region and to the rest of the world.
A Google-funded digital skills program has equipped over 7,800 young Kenyans with digital content creation and entrepreneurship skills and access to professional networks, boosting their prospects for employment and self-employment. Africa Digital Media Institute chairperson Dr. Laila Macharia says the program was designed to bridge the gap between education and employment by preparing young people for opportunities in the digital economy.
We need to invest in skills. So young people need to have technical skills. How do you actually create content that is world class and really able to engage and to involve the content viewer so that they remain engaged in your content? That's number one. So technical skills like photography, video production, graphic design, and of course the skills that have to do with performance marketing.
We have seen that there has been a big growth, an uptick in the growth of young people who are interested in making livelihoods that are driven by technology and creativity, aided by technology tools. And we have seen that we need to bridge the gap between that appetite for growth and entrepreneurship knowledge.
Many young people, after they've learned, they go back and teach others, and they need somewhere that they can get the resource to actually support their peers. So because of that, ADMI and Digital Opportunity Trust decided to come up with a platform where we can curate content that young people can refer to beyond the learnings that they had during the delivery of the program.
While the Kenyans are increasingly opting to invest locally, influenced by urbanization and expanding infrastructure in Kenya, the latest survey by Knight Frank indicates that the decision is also informed by rising political and economic instability in key global markets. The survey shows that high net worth individuals in Kenya are diversifying beyond traditional property investment to emerging opportunities such as data centers.
Domestic confidence remains strong. Many of the high-net-worth individuals are keen to invest and live in the country, as opposed to the previous years when we are seeing a lot of shift among these wealthy individuals or going outside the country to invest and live there. This time around, we're seeing a lot of confidence in the country. Number two, we're also witnessing a trend whereby people are now shifting their attention towards alternative asset classes. For instance, real estate investment trust, bonds, money market funds, as a way of diversifying their investments portfolio. And then lastly, as you mentioned rightfully, the environmental social governance, ESG, is equally on the rise. And this actually aligns with some of our findings from other publications where we have witnessed that the ESG compliant assets tend to perform better. They have increased occupancies compared to the non-ESG assets.
So people are still pretty confident in the Kenyan market. And I think a lot of that's to do with the growth rates we're seeing. A lot of these people are also diversifying their investments in real estate from traditional asset classes into more alternative investments, emerging asset classes, things like data centers, which shows us that they've got good exposure to traditional asset classes like residential. They're now looking for logistics and data centers to give them a little bit more growth.
Artificial intelligence is transforming the music industry in Uganda by lowering production costs, accelerating production and giving artists access to tools that were previously expensive and difficult to obtain in Kampala's recording studios. Musicians are using AI-powered software to generate ideas, mix and master tracks, with some artists describing the technology as a powerful creative assistant. Here are the details of these and other stories making headlines across the borders.
Songwriters in Uganda say artificial intelligence can turn simple music concepts into complete songs within minutes, but warned that it still lacks the emotional depth and human expression that define authentic music. Artists are also raising concerns over artificial intelligence systems that can replicate voices, styles and performances without consent, exposing gaps in copyright laws that have struggled to keep pace with technological advances. Lawyers say content creators have rights to seek legal protection when their work is misused, but Uganda needs updated regulations to address ownership and compensation for AI-generated content. Meanwhile, locally converted electric minibuses in Nigeria are offering residents a more affordable means of transportation as rising fuel prices and the high cost of living put pressure on household budgets. While passengers benefit from cheaper travel, the growing use of electric public transport is helping cut operating costs for drivers who rely on their minibuses for income. Headline inflation in Nigeria stood at 15.93% as of May 2026. Against the backdrop of this price strain, bus drivers began seeking an alternative to costly petrol. Commercial bus drivers have been among the hardest hit, repairing engines every 3 or 4 months due to frequent vehicle breakdowns and substandard spare parts. Finally, the chief executive of Volkswagen Group says the company plans to cut up to 100,000 jobs, twice as many as previously stated. The group, which includes Porsche, Audi, Seat, and Skoda, as well as the VW brand, had previously said it would axe some 50,000 posts in Germany by 2030. Volkswagen suffered a steep decline in profits last year, the results of falling sales in key markets, as well as increasing competition from Chinese brands moving into Europe. Volkswagen says the group costs were 20% higher compared to rival businesses, and it would need to reduce its outgoings even further.
And in the sports arena, President William Ruto has reaffirmed his government's commitment to harnessing sports talent through the development of sports infrastructure. The president spoke these early today when he hosted the 2 national women's soccer teams bound for international assignments.
Jersey and a ball.
President William Ruto hosted the national women team Harambee Starlets at State House, Nairobi today morning.
Wonderful.
He challenged Harambee Starlets to go better than the group stage exit in their Women Africa Cup of Nations debut a decade ago as they head to Morocco to battle for continental honors and in the hunt for a 2027 FIFA World Cup qualification.
Where you come from does not determine where you can go. Talent is not confined to big cities. Greatness is not reserved for a privileged few. It can emerge from every village, every school, every county. Dream boldly, work relentlessly, and when opportunity comes, be ready.
The president handed the national flag to Harambee Starlets, who will be flying out tonight for a pre-WAFCON residential training in France before they kick off their campaign on the 26th of this month against host and last year's finalist Morocco in a Group A fixture.
Sisi wote hata majunia wakienda World Cup pia na kuashua. Umeona venye wamecheza hapa, ni watu wako determine, watu wanataka wanaona mbele. So mimi naweza sema tukimalizana hapa usituachilie hivi sasa ndio baadaye tuende kwa Mr. President Hussein. Mr. President, tukishatoka hapa unaona talent venye ziko hapa. So Mr. President tuangalie.
Na also Mr. President, naweza sema jani jakuwa rahisi, even though kumekuwa na challenges, but tumefight, atujangalia hizo challenges venye zinani.
Beldin Odemba's Charters will face Algeria and Senegal in the other matches set for Rabat. The WAFCON semi-finalists will qualify for next year's FIFA Women's World Cup in Brazil, while the losing quarterfinalists will go through the playoffs. Ruto called on the junior starlets to record better results in this year's FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in Morocco. The junior starlets under the tutelage of Mildred Cheche are in Group E in this year's World Cup set for October 17th and November 7th in Morocco alongside China, USA and Samoa.
The second edition of the Uzalendo Half Marathon will be held this Saturday at Mogotio, Baringi County, following the official launch of this morning. Now, for the first time, the half marathon, which is geared towards raising funds to support needy students in Eldama Ravine, will feature a 10-kilometer, 6-kilometer, 5, 4 and 2-kilometer race.
All is set for the second edition of the Uzalendo Half Marathon, which will be held this Saturday in Baringo.
So we are expecting this marathon this time to be the best. And I know Uzalendo Marathon, it is now well advised in Kenya. And as Athletics Kenya, we are in full support of the Uzalendo Marathon.
The charity race seeks to raise funds for bright but financially disadvantaged students.
The initiative was started in 2013, and up to now we've had 398 children who have been sponsored at a cost of 54 million.
Tuesday morning, the organizers received a financial boost from partners and sponsors, including KCB, Tilil Technologies, eCitizen, ICT Authority, Water Fund, Konza Technopolis, and Gulf Energy, among others.
We are expecting to add to already what has been established. That's the endowment, educational endowment fund, which we already have 20 million, and we are looking forward to now raise towards the target of the 100 million education endowment fund.
During the inaugural edition, Stephen Kibet and Joyce Chepkemoi emerged as the champions. Frederick Mwoki for Lunchtime News.
The 2022 FIFA World Cup runners-up France will be eyeing a possible third consecutive FIFA World Cup final as they line up against European champion Spain in what is expected to be a thrilling match in Dallas tonight.
2-8 for Mbappe.
Leblanc go into the match as favourites to overcome Spain, but La Roja will be ready and up to the task to topple the Frenchmen's form in the tournament. France has been a powerhouse in this year's World Cup, winning all their matches and boasts an informed attacking prowess. Kylian Mbappe has been the point man in France's attack, bagging 8 goals and topping the goal-scoring chart alongside Argentine forward Lionel Messi. On the other hand, Spain goes into the semis intending to be just the fourth nation to win both the Euros and the World Cup titles. The winner will book a place in the final to face either Argentina or England, who play tomorrow in the other semi-final tie.
Spectator earlier. When he said, oh, well.
The match will be live on KBC Channel 1 at 10 p.m.
Well, that brings us to the end of our bulletin this afternoon. Thank you for watching. Our sign language interpreter is Caroline Joroge. I'm Jackie Wambiru. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Michuano ya kombe la dunia yanakaribia kilele na sasa ni kufa kupona. Farasi wawili wanaopatana ugani, ni mmoja tu ndiye atakayesalia huku mwingine akifunganya virago na kuelekea nyumbani. Je, ni timu gani itakayotwaa ubingwa huu mnamo Julai 19 pale MetLife Stadium? Jibu hili utalipata hapa KBC Channel 1, tukikupeperushia matangazo ya FIFA World Cup moja kwa moja kutoka Mexico, Canada na USA.
Goal! They've done it!
Pia unaweza